Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today it's gonna be a bit noisy in the background because I opened all my windows and doors to the outside because the air feels really fresh and good. Also, please pray for me. This is like 1 liter of Hojita latte. I'm probably not gonna be sleeping again today. I've been sleeping really bad. I've been sleeping like at 6 a.m. lately, and my body is going through it. But I don't know why, but I just gonna keep pushing for it, even though I know like that's not healthy. Don't do this, guys. I'm being a hypocrite. I'm like, do as I say, not do as I do. Um, Today I want to talk about the feeling of understanding that the world is an illusion. Like when I watch a lot of speakers in the past in seminars or in conferences, basically saying things like, oh, the world is an illusion. You know, those spiritual teachers. And I've read like hundreds and hundreds of books about it as well, that saying, this world is Maya, it's an illusion, it's not real. And from the scientific side, it's like the world is holographic. If you know, like the book Holographic Universe, you know what I'm talking about. And I basically spent a lot of my 20s basically reading all of that. And I think it wasn't until I've experienced a lot of turmoils and actual like kind of life and death situation that I started to understand the experience of what they mean, like life is an illusion. And it feels like you when things happen, especially when bad things happen, like I you have to choose like the reality of what's real and what's not. And it sounded very delusional, I know, but I didn't understand it until I went through it myself. When things are so crazy, I chose myself. I'm like, okay, then let the world burns. I'm gonna take a sleep. I'm gonna take a nap. Like even the world is burning, I'm gonna take a nap. Like I don't care. And well, in the past it has been different. Like it was as if that I have to sacrifice myself so that I can keep the world turning and to abide to other people's rules and other people's demands. But there's time where I would just say, in my 30s basically, where the tide has turned and I kind of just choose myself, not out of bad intent, but mostly out of necessity, because I was so burned out and I was so anxious, and my whole emotional system is dysregulated. My nervous system was fried, and I knew like going outside, going to the doctor wasn't helping, because every time I go to the doctor, they either gaslight me or just give some bullshit answers, and you just feel really neglected and thought to yourself, what's the point of paying, or act like, in Australia we got bulk bills, so but we're still paying, with our tax money, and the government is paying them. So what's the point of these people getting paid lots and lots of money and yet not doing their job? In the field of entrepreneurship, you don't get paid really rarely if you don't deliver. And I found this to be funny. Like in the real world, it's as if that the rules is very different. It's like you're getting paid anyway, even if you're doing a bad job, which is really weird. But because like this experience is kind of compounded, and then you kind of think to yourself, like, well, these people don't care as long as they're getting there. So I just started to do the same. And the I guess relating this to the term of like the world is an illusion, it feels, I think it also associated with the world is a mirror. So as soon as you put yourself first, like the world kind of rearrange outside to accommodate you. And the more you are firm about choosing yourself over and over again, the more the world rearrange itself so that it reflects how you are inside and your choices as well. So that's really crazy if you think about it, because our programming is very strong so that we feel like when we choose ourselves that we're doing something wrong, especially when we are so accustomed as women or as people of a certain culture background to serve others, while there are other people that have been taught that your job is to rule other people, which is crap. Like that's not how it is now. Because I guess like because of options like the technology, it levels out the playing field a lot. Even though I have to admit, like I still believe that the system is rigged, and I think when the system is rigged, that's when the terms like the world is an illusion actually takes stronger place, because now you have a choice. Which one do you want to choose, to play the games that is outside, or choose a different game or different rules for the game that you can set up for yourself? And otherwise, you are going to be governed by other people all the time, and that's not good. I think I'm trying to come up with an example of like world is an illusion on how it can be applied to real life, or like that actually happened in my real life. Can't come up with one. I guess I'm really bad at being put on the spot these days. I used to be really good, but not now. Your brain really plays a lot of tricks on you. I feel like you have to insist on your own reality and what is true and what is not. I know that sounds very psychopathic, but I feel like it's true. Like, if you watch Donald Trump's progression from the apprentice to the president of the United States, it's crazy, right? Like, they basically just molded reality into their liking. Even he wasn't believing it when he won for the first time in 2016. It didn't sink in until a long time. And the second time around was different, though, I think. I think he already believed that he could make it happen. And I think it wasn't only him going into office anymore, it was like the billionaire club now. So it's a different experience altogether, the second term. But when you see that, you definitely think to yourself, the world is definitely not a brick by brick type of situation anymore. It's more like, what would you like to insist on the world? What kind of place you want to impress? I think my examples of world as an illusion is maybe like just very day to day examples. Usually is when I go into a cafe or restaurants, or when I was still working, like I was commuting buses or trains. Usually is when I just wanted or decided that I want to have a seat. I would just decide in my mind, I want to have a seat. I want to take a and I want to sit down. And usually after I make that decisions in my head, a seat would be available for me. And there is that level where I felt really confident manifesting for myself, only if I can apply it for things that I have a lot of emotional charges with, like money and stuff. But I had this workshop like 20 years ago. All my experiences are mostly 20 years ago. The past 13 years are basically exploring my inner world, like isolation from the world. So my outside experiences are in my 20s, my inside experiences are in my 30s. So hopefully, as a 41 years old, I am a fully rounded person because I have explored both the extremity of the outside and the inside. There was this chorus called Robert Sheinfeld or something, Bob Sheinfeld, something. And he used to talk about this phase one and phase two thing. And I remember like when he was talking about phase two, he always say things like, "Oh, this is an illusion. This is not real." And then you have to repeat that over and over again. I still use it every now and then, but not to that extent of what he was teaching. I usually say it as an affirmation and pair it up with EMDR technique, like bilateral simulation when I'm in full blown panic mode and full blown dysregulation, and so it's a mantra that is really easy for me to do because it just trying to calm myself down in a lot of ways and using whatever technique I have in my hand. Um, yeah, so basically, his suggestion was when you are going through a traumatic experience, you go basically shut your eyes and you should keep repeating, "This is not real. This is not real." And then he would say, "I'm reclaiming my power back from it now. I'm reclaiming my power back from it now." The company that I used to work with really hate this guy because they said like the people that go to the program for this guy usually never ended up like paying full amount of money um, to the company, so that they always lose money every time people sign up for this particular guy's course. I don't remember his full name, to be honest. To be honest, personally, I don't like the way he sounds because it's very nasally. Like I don't mind it coming from the nanny, like the Fran Drescher or something. Like she sounds fine with a nasal voice, but coming from a man, is quite. It's just a personal preference, I suppose. I just don't like it. But he just kept saying that, and then all the participants are buying it like right, left, and center. So there's a lot of participants like basically not paying their full amount of some people buying it from an installment, so they pay like just hundreds of dollars like at a time because the courses can um add up to like 2 grand or like 5 grand or whatever courses that they have, right? And people just paying like 500 here, 500 there. But after they go to the course, and then they should keep paying for the installment so that they paid for the full course. But because the course is basically saying, when you don't have any money, you just go and 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 say, "Oh, this is an illusion. This is not real. I reclaim my power back from it now," and act as if that you are that, and act, it's part of like law assumption if you're into manifestation and stuff. And most of them just come back and didn't pay the full amount because it's an illusion anyway. Why should I pay for it? I should assume it's already fully paid. I'm already assumed that it's taken care of. So they're basically just applying the course that they had done and they had taken, and it was impacting our company back then, like when I was working. And I found it really funny because I thought to myself, well, maybe the CEO needs to believe in the speaker that they're promoting and start so implementing the teachings as well, and start doing, basically reassuring themselves and affirming like, "This is not real, this is not real, and this is just an illusion, this is just an illusion, and I reclaim my power back from it now," which a mantra that I still use to calm myself down. But of course, like, I'm so jaded by this time that I feel, even though I'm saying it, I feel there's a certain amount of cynicism inside of me to actually fully absorb the potentiality of the mantra, for example. Because I think the mantra works best if you're so naive and you haven't been exposed to the cruelty of the world as much. I think there is a power of innocence, there's a power of naivety, because those are the power to manifest that actual power when you have no doubt beside what you're believing. That's when manifestation comes true. Because I have had those moments where I feel like when I quit my job, so like on retail, for example, and I was 21 years old, maybe 20 years old, and my general manager was like 31 years old. So by this time, she probably already has so many experiences about life, right? And as a 20 something year old, I was basically so confident that, and I was so deep into self help industry, into, new age manifestation type things back then, And because I was young and naive, my belief is so strong, and my cynicism was not there at all. And I was saying, like, I'll be having coffee, and I was saying, no, I'm certain opportunity will come my way. And they did, like a job manifested out of the blue in a month's time after I said that. So it was really like that certainty. I miss it so much, that naivety, that utter belief without self doubt whatsoever, without having the, that trauma brain being triggered constantly, and to kind of like rail your positive and absolute creation back into your reality. But I don't think it's bad at all, because the whole purpose of being alive is to actually make this world real. That's the whole purpose of it. It's not to assume this world is not real, because I think that's where we all went wrong. I think the word that this world is an illusion is real from a metaphysical perspective, but it's not meant to. I think like it's not meant to, for most of us, it's not meant to be the direction of our lives. The direction of our lives is supposedly to live the illusion as if it is real. And I think I mentioned that in a video a long time ago, that the purpose of this illusion basically is to experience emotions, to experience, like, that's basically what it is. An experience is an emotion that you feel with your body. And once that has happened, in most cases, until you suddenly feel, oh, yeah, this gonna keep happening again, and I probably am already over it. Until you're over it, it will keep happening to you. And I think that's when the illusion kicks in. Like, the illusion is only there as a simulation so that you get to experience what you wanted to experience, and until you're over it, it will not stop. And you will know the moment where you feel like you're over it. And it's a weird experience, extremely weird experience. Because while you were going through the emotion, you were thinking, this is real. Like, I am feeling like I'm dying here. I'm feeling so torn up about it. I'm feeling, and sometimes like those feelings stuck, right? Like, is that's what we call traumas, basically. Especially emotional trauma is really hard. Like, physical trauma is probably, I'm not saying it's easy to fix, but I think it's a lot, like, it's just one level down to fix before the emotional trauma that is attached to it. Because now we have a lot of techniques to deal with physical traumas. We have somatic therapies, we have shaking therapies, and all these therapies that wasn't there before. And we also can accompany it with EMDR, with bioelectrical stimulation. So a lot of therapies now are very available to help you with transitioning from being stuck in a traumatic, especially like physical type of disorder, to at least a functioning level. So you can go to seek your therapist and just search maybe like therapists that knows this type of stuff around you, like trauma informed therapists around you. Just Google it, and I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot of people available to help you out. And if they don't, you probably can find someone that is internet based and look deal with it that way, because we are living in 2025 now. We are not limited. If someone can be friends with people from across the globe, from the other side of the globe, you can definitely find a therapist nearby that suits your need. Although I know this is probably hypocritical, I know how hard it is and takes so much effort, especially when you're burnt out. It takes like a lot of energy to come up with it, mental load and mental capacity to do it. So just take it one day at a time. Maybe today you just Google it and browse, and if it's overwhelming, shut it down. And tomorrow you just look two more. Just keep going like inch by inch. But I think that's the essence of the world. Like, life is an illusion. Is once you are when you hit the lesson, when you are over the lesson, when you completed a lesson, it transforms quite simply, it transforms quite easily. Like, there is this feeling of knowing that the lesson has ended. Of course, like, the outside is probably still unfolding in some ways. And I think, that there is that lady that is called Maya or Anna. She talks about how she had like a near death experiences, and she was having like a lot of tumor, a lot of cancer in her body. And then after she had the near death experiences, she basically said like, okay, I'm just gonna heal from now on, because that was decided from when she was like on the other side. And when she came back, that happened. And she basically said, yeah, it's no big deal. It's just a natural progress of my decision, basically. And I think that's it. Like, the world is an illusion because you get to create it from the inside. So if you decide that you no longer want to participate in this particular scenario, like, then the world around you is going to change according to your decision. And the decision is not like, you can feel like when a decision is a real decision is because you don't feel any effort anymore to follow through with that decision. It's just something that you decided, and it's not a big deal. And I think that's the sign, right? It's not a big deal anymore. And if it's not a big deal, then it's so much easier to follow through. And the world is an illusion is because it just creates things that are real, that we think is real. And then when we stop agreeing that it's real, it kind of goes away. And like, my example is probably really bad, but when I was 18 or 19, I had this really massive breakout on my face. I still have a lot of scars from it. I still have a lot of acne scars. And I really dealt with it really badly. I was just putting on so much, like, um, you know, uh, anti-spot treatment back then. Back then, there was a lot of like uh, acne creams or acne like spots treatment for spots, and I just put them like that, and it just looks horrendous. It looks like it was like a mountain model or something that you make to present to your, I don't know, 3D class. And you know how like sometimes like there's architecture or some that needs to create a model of a certain either landscape or certain buildings, and then you have like those textures, and it's just like a miniature, or like it just looks like that. It looks like I have a lot of mini mountains on my face with the amount of acne medication I put on my face. It was really grotesque, basically, and I really hated myself. I just hated the fact that I had these and blah blah blah. I think like I didn't know that back then that I was allergic to milk, and my gut system was really bad. So I think after one point, I just decided, you know what? If this is my reality, then I will accept it. Oh well, this is it, and I just stopped caring too much about it. I just let it be. I still put on like acne cream, but not as much as I was doing it before. I wasn't obsessing about it anymore. I realized like it's when I stop obsessing about it and just let it go and accept that it is what it is, things just started to heal on its own. And I don't even have a memory of how it heals. I just remember that one day that my face wasn't like as much like that anymore. I still have acne, I still have problematic acne, but not like, full blown where your whole face is covered by it. And I don't think I took any kind of dramatic action whatsoever afterwards. But before that, I did. I went to dermatologist. I went to laser, just did a whole bunch of stuff, and it didn't work. And then I just decided like I need to do something else. I think that's it. Life is an illusion because it just like a simulation, but the control of the simulation, not all the control, some of the control is in our brain. Because I think the way life goes is before you come to Earth in this body or whatever body that you possess right now, you have like a general type of storyline for that particular person that you are currently possessing. Because and then the purpose is to live this person's storyline from birth to death. So 80% of the time, I think that's where it lies. So no matter what you do, you're probably better off just following that story. That's going with the flow, going with God's, whatever that means to you, that's what it means in general. But the 20% is, I think, are the choices that you make along the way. And these are choices that are allowed to be made. And this is where you get to exercise your creation power, where you can change the simulation according to what you decide for it to be. So the theme of your life can be, I would like to overcome the feeling of being poor. I would like to come the feeling of being oppressed. I would like to see the transition from being poor to rich. I want to experience the feeling of being a princess and being a pauper. Because if you know, like there was this, I think Austria, no, Russian, no, like I think it was Russian, Prussian, the Prussian princess. I think Queen Elizabeth II's cousin or something that went from that like got her whole family killed, and she went from being a princess to a very just like ordinary person somewhere living in Canada or something. And like also Queen Elizabeth II mother-in-law went from an aristocracy background to dying as a poor nun somewhere. Like actually, I think she died in England under the care of the Queen Elizabeth II and with her son and brother next to her. But for the longest period, she was basically on her own, and she went through a horrendous life experiences. So, and we have to respect everyone's decisions and how they live their lives in a lot of ways. And we and also there's always an interconnection between each other, right? Like when you are in a certain mental state or emotional state, usually you're connecting better with certain people that are in the same mental state and emotional state. You can trace this back. And I think that's it. Like that life is an illusion is basically that. It, it's just like a interactive things, like because like because Earth is so slow and dense. Like just because you change your mind doesn't mean like suddenly in front of you will change. But the game, I think, on Earth, living on Earth, is that is like if you are living in a different dimensions, like in a mental dimension, for example, where if you just change what you think, you're suddenly there. Like I think like there are a lot of ghost stories where they basically saying, if I think I want to go to Honolulu, suddenly I'm in Honolulu. If I think like, um, you know, New Zealand, I'm in New Zealand. So there is an instant manifestation happening, and like it changes according to what you think. But I think because we are on Earth, it only happens when you decide that over and over again, and when you're consistent with your choice, then the world starting to kind of conform to your decisions and your thoughts. And that's basically the principle of like law of manifestation. But I think to some degree it is correct, it is true. You project your decision outwardly, and then you kind of just start walking that way. uh and you can also, like, sometimes I see this happens in people as well, like when you talk to them, right? And then suddenly they just change in front of you. Like I remember like there was this incident like in 2011, maybe, yeah, 2011. It was we just finished our Christmas lunch, and then we were at a different bar or something after, so post drink lunch. And there was this guy that was talking about something, and he was basically saying, he was like tapping this other colleague's shoulder and basically trying to convince them to pay attention to something that was happening. And he goes like, oh my god, look at that, like she is so bad. And then the colleague that he was tapping the shoulders to, and they turn around and say, oh my god, they're so good. But the original tapper was basically trying to tell his colleague that that guy is bad, but the colleague is basically saying to him that the guy is good. So the guy, the first guy, just changed his mind automatically right there in the second, and just agreed with the colleague and just say, oh yeah, he's so good, like I witnessed that. And I know like that's not a good example of life is an illusion, but it's just an example of a lot of people are easily persuaded and things easily changed even in a split second. So I guess life is an illusion is more about the concept of nothing is permanent and it can easily be changed at any second. And you can be really sick one day and then you can be really healthy the next day. And I think like when I was going through my starvation period, like of course usually people that water fast know this. You go through about 3-4 days worth of hell if you don't so if you stop eating and then you just drink water. And then on the fourth day or the fifth day, something happens. You think that you were gonna die. No, what happens is you stop feeling hungry and your mental clarity is through the roof. And suddenly you have a lot of time in your hand because you're not using that time to cook anymore and or eat. So you're suddenly finding yourself calm, collected, have a clear head, and not hungry. And you're starting to like I started to ask my questions like, oh, so what people are trying to fearmonger out of me is untrue. It's like, you have to eat properly, you have to eat blah blah blah, otherwise you die and stuff. But no one told you that you get to have this experience. I'm not promoting water fasting, by the way. I'm not promoting starvation or is eating disorder in any way. Like I did that because I didn't have money to buy food, so I did it involuntarily. Um, and I was alone. I don't have any friends or family or whatever, so there was no supervision. And I was also depressed, so I probably was looking forward to ending my perspective on my old life. That's probably a kind way to say it. Uh, but you kind of like I kind of like had that experience of basically experiencing a life that was told to me that could never happen. Like I was experiencing the shattering of lies in terms of like food and everything. And I was experiencing only a few people get to experience, which is a lived in like because not a lot of people dare to starve, right? Like unless you have gone through that experience, you don't know what it feels. Because I remember I was talking to this lady, like I think she was 70 something, and she was telling me this story and she was crying, telling about how her dad one day was like didn't have anything to eat for one day. And when she was telling me the story, I was still in the starvation period. I didn't share it with anyone, so I like because why would you? um and I just nod and I'm like, okay, one day is nothing, because I was like at that point I had like 22 days under my belt and along. And not eating for 5 days was actually very lucky back then because that means it's pretty short. Usually it takes about 10 days, give or take. Like I don't even count like not eating for one day as starving because that means I get to eat the next day. So that's a good week. So, and this lady was just kept saying that, like, oh my God, it's just as if that it was the worst thing that could happen to a man, not eating for one day while she was basically in front of a girl that hasn't eaten for, I don't know, for almost a year back then. So that experience, it's like, my point is, I guess, life is an illusion because you get to choose what's real and you can choose to break the illusion of what's real. Like with the Anna or Maya girl, not girl, she's a lot older than me. I should give her some respect. Lady, as soon as like she came back from the near death experience, she was like, "Okay, I don't have to be sick anymore. Like that's a choice." And as soon as she chose that, like she was like, "I'm not there yet, right? I'm not there. I'm not in that space where I can choose like, oh, it's a choice for me not to be poor, which is probably my biggest, maybe it's my life purpose to, not my life purpose, it's my life lesson to not think that money is, to not think that money is real. That's one of the biggest lesson that I am here to do, to get over the fact that money is real. Like maybe that is the illusion that I need to overcome. So I'm not saying that this is going to be easy for some people, but I think that's, for me right now, that's the meaning of it. It's like life is an illusion. It's like you choose to decide which one is real and which one isn't. And so once you choose that, then it becomes an illusion. It becomes not real anymore. But the decision can only happen once you definitely over that lesson and you know when it is finished, when it's done, when you're no longer being held hostage by that belief or by that situation. Like with the starvation experience with me, is the illusion that shattered was you can't live without food. Yeah, maybe for, and it depends. Like if I had like a lot more fat, I probably could, because because I was going through it. So I need a lot of evidence that people have gone through this before, and what I was going through was not just um out of the anomaly. But that information could not come to me when I was still in the belief system of like you need food every day to survive. um when I was going through it, I basically just searched YouTube or searched the internet to convince me that this is has been done before. And I've seen like people who was like 300 kilogram did not eat for the whole year, but this person was monitored by the hospital, so they get like electrolytes and also minerals being induced through like IV. So but he didn't eat for a whole year and brought his weight back into to normal size person. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, so fat is storage. So as long as you have fat, you're good. You still have sorry. But the problem is like, I know this is off tangent. The problem is this fat that you store also contain a lot of the info, a lot of the emotion that you were going through when the fat was stored, and also a lot of the viruses that you captured back then. So you will in my experience, I went through a lot of diseases that I think I kind of skipped because I just kept eating. And when you kept eating, you just keep storing things. So you don't experience it in that moment. So you just get pushed like into the back storage somewhere. So, but when you're using it after you, when you're doing a water fast, it's being pulled. And then when you using it because you're water fasting, so you mean you're liquidating those energy fat storage. You're also liquidating the the diseases, the emotions all form that fat. So you will experience a lot of backtracking in your experience when you want to fasting, for example, when you are, a lot of emotion will come about, and then you just so weird with it out, like, why is this coming? I remember, like, I had pneumonia for like 3 months. The worst part was 3 weeks. I was so sure that I was gonna die. um so this was like, maybe, I don't know, when was this? Anyway, and I couldn't breathe at all, and it was so horrendous, and I was weak. I really thought that I was not going to come out of it alive. And no, I did not go to the hospital because there was no one here to help me. So, and I was just in a mess, and I couldn't even walk out the door without collapsing, probably. Um, And oh, I didn't have any credit on my phone because I canceled my phone because I didn't have money to buy. If you don't have money to buy food, you don't have money to have phone credit. So, well, I think you can call the emergency ambulance, but I'm thinking, oh, you have to pay $500 for emergency ambulance. And I'm like, I don't want to, I don't have any money, so why would I? Anyway, that was like probably the thought process that I went through back then. And I was really weak. I couldn't do anything for 3, 4 months. It took like a lot of months to kind of get over that stage. But I think that happens, like pneumonia and stuff like that, because I was burning up all this excess storage from my body. And I think the pneumonia was stored somewhere there. So it got processed. So when you're burning up your fat, when you're liquidating your energy storage, you're also liquidating whatever diseases and emotional things that you're dealing with when you do that. But I know, like, that's just off tangent, but that's also like, it makes you start questioning about like whether life is real or not, because, and I that's also like start questioning about time, like, and the intricacy between emotions and physicality of life. Anyway, maybe that's a different topic for a different day. Yeah, so I guess that's what I want to talk about life is an illusion. Anyway, hope that was entertaining somewhat, even though I went off tangent. I will see you guys later. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and hearing me rambling. Uh, I'm Valerie, and I'm a solopreneur on here on the internet. If you want to check out my links, it's in the description box. You can see like what I'm up to in on the other platforms or on other sites, or what my art shops is. Anyway, that don't make sense anymore. Bye, everyone.